Hello everybody, Ellie here for WhoCulture, and we are back with more ups and downs for season 2 of Doctor Who. I'm so excited to talk about my thoughts on these episodes, to hear your thoughts on these episodes each week. We're gonna have such a fun 8 weeks. It's really something to be excited about. Before I start though, I do want to take a quick moment to give an up to our sponsor for this week's video, Surfshark. Just as the Doctor traverses all of time and space from the safety of the Tardis, you too can explore the online universe more privately and securely when using Surfshark VPN. You know, we've all been out and about and afraid to use that dodgy looking public Wi-Fi network. But with Surfshark, your data is protected while using public Wi-Fi, so you don't become a victim of identity theft or fraudulent purchases. Basically, you can browse just as safely from some far-flung alien planet as you can from the safety of your own home. Plus, you can even change your virtual location while traveling, so you will still have access to BBC iPlayer and Disney Plus content while in another country. And considering that we're starting a new season of Doctor Who, I don't need to tell you how important that is. Surfshark also offers 24/7 customer support and a 30-day money-back guarantee. And you can also check out Surfshark Alert, which is a breach detection system that notifies you of personal data leaks. Basically, it's your very own cloister bell. So click the link in the description or use the code WhoCulture at checkout to get 4 extra months of Surfshark VPN. That's code WhoCulture at checkout to get 4 extra months of Surfshark VPN. Thank you again to Surfshark for sponsoring this video, and now let's get into the ups and downs for the robot revolution.
Now I'm asking you, Doctor, to do the right thing.
So we open the episode with Alan giving Belinda a star for her birthday 17 years ago. Now from this scene we already get an idea of Alan's personality type, but at the moment it's not really cause for concern. And then we jump to the present day and we see Belinda at work as a nurse. Now this entire scene kind of reminds me of Partners in Crime, all the way down to the Doctor keep missing Belinda, just as the Doctor and Donna kept missing each other. And what's interesting about this is we had all had so much speculation about whether Belinda was going to have a lot of similarities to Martha, but it turns out it's Donna that she's much more similar to, and I'm going to get into that a bit more later on in the ups and downs. But anyway, Belinda comes home from work, she goes to bed, and in the middle of the night, robots come and kidnap her and claim that she's the queen of their planet. And here we have my first up for the episode. I really love this concept of taking a gimmick such as buying somebody a star and then turning it into this serious sci-fi situation. Nobody buys a star, names a star, and actually thinks that they own that star. And they certainly don't think that at some point in the future, robots from that star are going to turn up and claim that you're their queen. Now, this is the kind of Doctor Who story and plot that I really, really like. Taking something that is relatable and familiar to the audience and then giving it that fun sci-fi twist. Something as mundane, really, as buying someone a star. We all know it's a gimmick. But what if it wasn't a gimmick? What if, in this reality, what if it actually meant you're now the queen of that star? I really like it, it's really clever. So then the robots take Belinda. Now, here's a side note. I know I said all through season 1 that I would like to see darker tones, and I'm hoping that we're going to have that in season 2. Did they have to kill the cat? That's one step too far into the dark, really, isn't it? Did they have to kill the cat? I watched this episode at a screening, and the gasps when that cat got shot was, I mean, it was audible. You could hear it in the silence of the cinema, gasps at the cat. There's a dark humour to it, in the fact that the cat is irrelevant, the emoji on the robot's face, but also the poor cat. And then we have Mrs. Flood, and I'm going to give an up to this scene. And I know people might be thinking it's such a minor scene, why would you give that an up? But the reason it gets the up is because it's so minute, it's less than a minute long. And yet for me, it was one of the most memorable parts of the entire episode, because she's so good at hooking us with so little. You know, we have so many questions after just this 40 seconds of seeing her. The way that she doesn't want to be spotted by the Doctor. The fact that she breaks the fourth wall yet again. This has happened enough times now to know that this is not a coincidence. She's clearly doing this on purpose, and there's a reason for it. Then there's the whole question of how is Mrs. Flood the neighbour of yet another companion? Again, this is not a coincidence. So there's so many questions, and we're already starting to kind of dive into that mystery of Mrs. Flood within the opening minutes of this episode, and for that, it gets an up. But anyway, Belinda is taken to the planet. We have the whole swamp situation as they're on their way to the planet. Again, something I'll get back to later on. And then she arrives on the planet. She finds out that the robots have taken over and that she is to marry the AI generator. First of all, let's have an up for the whole every ninth word code situation. This entire sequence had me gripped. The way it was edited, the way it was performed, the fact that I was trying to figure out what the message was before they explicitly told us what the message was. It was just so engaging, it was gripping. It's one of those cool things that often happens in kind of espionage films or sci-fi things where you clearly understand there's a code going on, but it makes it exciting for you to try and figure it out. And I was almost doing the same thing that Belinda was doing, counting on my fingers how many words they were saying to try and figure out what the message was. I mean, of course, they did tell us what the message was a little bit later, but it was fun, it was exciting, it was performed incredibly well. I really liked the editing of the close-ups of the mouths. You could feel the tension in Belinda as she was trying to figure out what was going on but not let on that she was trying to break a code. I just really enjoyed this entire sequence. But it does bring me to my first down of the episode, where the message in the code was kind of embedded within the code. You had to try and figure out what it was, and then they would tell you what it was explicitly after you'd almost tried to figure it out. In terms of the messaging of this episode, there was a real lack of subtlety. Now, I mentioned earlier that I really like it when we have relatable situations and scenarios in episodes for the audience to kind of feel a connection to. But in terms of the AI generator, it was so obvious. There was nothing left up to the imagination. Now, granted, there was a twist on the whole AI name thing a little bit later on, but why didn't they just call it the generator? I think the thing is, AI is such a big talking point in the real world at the moment that this kind of felt really on the nose in terms of putting it in the story. And I feel like it would have been better to have had it disguised a little bit more within the context of this fictional story, so that we had to just dig a little bit deeper to understand what the messaging of this episode was without it being so glaringly obvious to us. And I guess in a similar vein, I'm jumping ahead slightly, but in a similar vein, did we really need the additional line of a planet of incels or the planet of the incels? We understood what the message was. We got it without you needing to then make it really obvious with this additional line. We understood. Now, the thing is, I'm not against messaging being in Doctor Who. In fact, it excels in shining a light in real life situations and real life issues. But where I feel we've had a decline in more recent years is the subtlety. It now feels so obvious that there's no need for you to dig a little deeper into the story to figure out what that message is. And I feel like that is where we've kind of declined in more recent years in terms of Doctor Who. It's always been there in Doctor Who, but lately it feels just a little bit more on the nose and obvious and lacks that subtlety, which I think worked so well, particularly in Russell T Davies's first era as showrunner. So for me, I just feel like let's bring back the subtlety in these messages. By all means, have them in there, and they're important to be in there. But we could embed them within the story a little bit better without explicitly saying, this is a planet of incels and it's all about AI and how bad that is. But having AI as the big bad of the episode, for me, felt a little bit too on the nose in regards to current situations. Anyway, we're in the throne room, and then the rebels fight back against the robots. Sasha, 55, bless her, is killed, and then the Doctor and Belinda escape to the Undercity. Now, the aftermath of Sasha 55's death does bring me, unfortunately, to another down for this episode. With Season 1, a lot of our comments focused on the pacing of the stories and how it felt off, and how a lot of that was down to the runtime, the shorter runtime of the episodes, and the fact that we have less episodes. We were hoping perhaps this would change in Season 2, but we still have the same number of episodes and they're still at the same length. So we were kind of hoping maybe for a miracle for that to change. But the reaction from the Doctor in response to Sasha 55's death is a perfect example of where the pacing doesn't quite work. As was a big issue in season 1, rather than being shown a relationship developing or the bond between characters forming, we're just told in a single line that he spent 6 months with Sasha and they became very close. But because we were just told it in one line of exposition instead of seeing an additional scene that showed us that relationship developing, we did not feel that loss like the Doctor did. And so what we got instead was one line of exposition and then what felt like a really exaggerated response from the Doctor to Sasha's death, because we didn't have that same connection to the character, because we didn't see that bond develop. And it's not just this situation. There are other moments in the episode where the pacing didn't feel quite right and we felt like we were missing additional scenes that would have really helped bolster the story. For example, I mean, Belinda as a character was thrown in right at the deep end. It was plot, 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 plot. We didn't really have much time to really learn much about Belinda as a character. We had the brief scene in the hospital, the very brief scene before she was kidnapped. But I miss those quieter moments that were focused on character development, relationship building, instead of everything being focused on plot all the time. And that's something that these later seasons have been lacking, that I feel were very important to the stories in Russell's first era, in basically a lot of the beginning of modern Who, and they seem to be missing in this new era, primarily because of the shorter runtimes and the reduced episode count, but it is problematic. Something that I do feel has improved and will improve more going forward, though, is the companion Doctor dynamic. Was something I criticised a lot in season 1 and I think is going to be very different moving into season 2. We have this whole scene in the Undercity between Belinda and the Doctor, and we really start to see who Belinda is and how she interacts with the Doctor. So I need to give a massive up to the character of Belinda Chandra. I never really warmed to Ruby that much, but already from just one episode, I'm really, really gripped by Belinda, and I really like her as a character. Now, as I mentioned earlier, she does give off major Donna Noble vibes for me, from her wit and humour to her sass and to the way that she's not afraid to argue back. I mean, all the way down to the fact that she doesn't think she's important, just like Donna didn't think she was important. She doesn't feel like she's special in any way. She's just doing her job. She just is. Now, I think a line that really highlights this in terms of not being just blown away by this madman and just listening to what he says and not questioning anything. You know, the line where he says, "Timey-wimey," she goes, "Timey-wimey, am I 6?" You know, she's not in awe of this man. She's not like, "You're wonderful and amazing and I'm just going to laugh at every joke you make and agree with everything you say." No, you don't speak for me. You don't argue back for me. You don't stand and say what I can and can't do. I'm in this mess and I'll get myself out of this mess. And you call yourself the Doctor, fine, I'm just the nurse. You're not special. And I really like that about her, and I love that conflict between them, the butting of heads. That's what makes an interesting Doctor companion dynamic for me. She also doesn't hold herself as the queen. She's like, I don't want to be queen, I am here to help. She's not afraid to get stuck in, to help the wounded, to make sure everybody is safe. She's a nurse, and she puts people's safety above all else. And to that end, she is willing to sacrifice herself in order to stop the killing and the injuring of all of these innocent people. And she's willing to do that. She's not hiding behind the Doctor asking for help, and she's willing to say, you know what, these people are dying and it is my fault. So here I am, robots, come get me. And that's exactly what happens. They come and get her, they take her to the AI generator. And then we have this whole scene where it's revealed that AI actually is AL and it's Alan, and he was taken. There's a whole timey-wimey situation going on with a time fracture and a swamp. And there's a lot of revelations here and resolutions to the problem. But I'm afraid I do have a down for this scene, because while it did look incredible, and the twist that it was Alan was unexpected. And as I say, the effects looked really good, and even down to the effects as the resolution happened, it felt very static to me. It was all taking place in just this single room. There was a lot of talking going on, and I kind of found myself waiting for it to get going, and then it was over. I don't know, I kind of felt that vibe from a lot of the episode. It was kind of, we'll go to this room, we'll do some talking. There was one little gunfight, but then we'll go to another room and do some more talking. And then we'll take you to another room and do some more talking, and here's where the resolution is, and here's where the revelation is. I don't know, I just feel like I was waiting for something to start happening, and then it was over and it was just a lot of talking happening. Some talking is good, but sometimes I'm just waiting for that oomph, and it kind of didn't come. And then, of course, I've already given you my thoughts on the whole Planet of the Incels situation, so I won't go into that more. But yeah, overall, I just felt like it looked amazing, and I really liked when the two star charts, star certificates, that's the word, the two star certificates touched, and I thought that whole sequence looked incredible. I was just waiting for something more to happen a little bit. But of course, the Doctor and Belinda do save the day, and poor old Alan is reduced to literally being a sperm and egg on the floor. And then taken up to the polish robot. He's so cute, and he just and polishes him right up. Bye-bye, Alan. You've been polished. I love that little robot. What I love about it as well is it is a kind of funny, jokey, gimmicky part, but it's also important to the plot. He takes the certificate from the Doctor to Belinda. Whatever, the robot. But it's very cute, and it really reminded me of Gadget from The Waters of Mars. Gadget, Polish. Which is cute, it was like the little pet. I feel like they should take Polish with them. Take Polish with you. That's what I'm calling him now, Polish. Take him with you on your adventures. That's not going to happen. But I really liked it. It was really cute. It was really sweet. And it swept up the bad guy. Now, in terms of this episode, it very much felt like it was Belinda's episode. But having said that, Ncuti Gatwa as the Doctor, very energetic and bouncy and lively as ever, gave some incredible performances throughout the episode. His technobabble delivers that brilliantly. I would really struggle with the kind of sci-fi nonsense technobabble delivery, but he seems to excel in that. But overall, I do feel like the focus really here was on Varada Sethu and the introduction of Belinda, and the Doctor kind of took maybe a bit of a back seat. I do feel like moving forward, we're going to have much deeper explorations of the Doctor as a character in other episodes of Season 2. But again, if I go back to the whole pacing, it would have been nice to have had maybe just one extra scene with the Doctor, focusing on the Doctor, that wasn't just all about plot, that wasn't just plot driven, just maybe those quieter moments that are about the character and the character development. He did an excellent job. I think Ncuti really stood out in the every ninth word scene. He was really, really great there. And he is full of energy, and I really like that about his Doctor. But yeah, I feel like the focus here was more on Belinda, and it would have been nice to have just had maybe an additional scene that was just focused more on the Doctor as a character rather than just him being there to drive the plot forward. And then everything is done, everyone's saved, the robots and the humans? Miss Belinda Chandra kind? They're not humans. The robots and the Miss Belinda Chandra kind can live harmoniously together on the planet once more. And it's time for the Doctor to get Belinda home. But of course, this is Doctor Who, so it's not going to be that easy, is it? It's never going to be that easy. Not that simple. I will just say here, I really liked Belinda's TARDIS reaction scene. When I did the Rose ups and downs, I spoke about how, Billie Piper was at an advantage because she was the first modern companion to do the TARDIS reaction scene, and I think a lot of companions since then have fallen into the trap of it being a cliche, and I feel like Varada Sethu did a really good job of not falling into the trap of cliche. Her response was much more laid back, much more chill. It wasn't that awe and wonder. Well, it was, but it also was kind of like, he goes, it's bigger on the inside, and she's like, yeah, I know. It's not wow, it's amazing. It's like, well, yeah, I've got eyes. I can see it's bigger on the inside, Again, another reason why I really like the character, but I think her TARDIS reaction, really, really strong. Really enjoyed that. And then we do obviously end the episode with this mystery because they can't seem to get home. And another up to close out this episode, because we have a lot of mysteries set up in this episode that we're hopefully going to get answers to moving forward within Season 2. But we've got questions like, why can't they land back on Earth? Again, who is Mrs. Flood? Who is this man that told the Doctor to find Belinda? We don't know who that was, because everything's kind of broken in this time fracture, timey-wimey situation. So we have got a lot of questions. Is there more to the connection between Belinda and Mundy Flynn? Lots of questions here, so I'm excited to move into season 2 and find the answers to this. It kind of gives the vibes of, say, series 5, when there were lots and lots of mysteries unfolding, and as the series went on, we started to get more answers. Some of them moved into series 6, and they continued throughout the entire Matt Smith era. But I like that we have lots of mysteries, and as long as we don't have revelations such as she was pointing at a signpost, I'm excited to see where these mysteries go and what the answers to these questions might be. But I think it's very good to set up lots of questions like this right at the beginning to keep people hooked and get people speculating and excited for what's to come. And in terms of the multiple mysteries revealed here, I think they've done a good job there. Just don't make the revelation something like she was pointing at a signpost. For the love of all that is holy, please don't do that again. So overall, I would say this is a good episode, not a great episode. Now, compared to the season 1 opener, Space Babies, by far a step up, by far a step into the better direction. It moves away from the silliness, becomes a little bit more serious. Now, some of you might look back at our ups and downs for Space Babies and go, how can you say that? Because you gave Space Babies way more ups. We have since decided to kind of refine our reviews a little bit more, so don't let that mislead you. I definitely think this was a stronger episode than Space Babies. Our ups and downs have changed slightly. We've kind of refined how we review the episodes, so don't be misled. I am certainly more intrigued by this season than I was by the last, and I think a lot of that comes down to the character of Belinda. As I said, I'd never really warmed to the character of Ruby. I found that it felt too clean, the relationship between the Doctor and Ruby. The relationship between Belinda and the Doctor definitely has that conflict that I've been hoping for, the banter that I really love that we see between the Doctor and Donna. So I'm really excited to see where this relationship goes and how this conflict evolves as they move, hopefully, towards Earth, the long way around. Also, you may have noticed this is one of the first reviews I've given where I haven't given an up to Murray Gold. I was waiting for Belinda's theme to happen and nothing really jumped out to me as this is Belinda's theme. So I'm hoping that I'm going to be blown away by it maybe next week or at some point when we have a real defining moment for the character. But at the moment, I liked a lot of the music in the episode, but a lot of it was music we'd either heard before or nothing that I could really go, this is incredible standout music, more than what I usually love about Murray Gold's music, because there were some good motifs in there. But yes, overall, I would say maybe a patchy start, but there's definitely room for redemption moving forward. And I think things are only going to get better from here. Well, I can hope. Anyway. So there you have it. There are my ups and downs for the Robot Revolution. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel and you've got the notification bell tapped, because we of course will have more coverage of this episode coming in the following week. We will have an Easter egg video, which is going to be fun. We also will have the discussions back between myself and Sean for each episode as well, and we'll have these 3 videos for every single episode that comes in season 2, and you don't want to miss what we have to say about these episodes. And I want to know what you have to say about the episode, so please do let me know your thoughts on the Robot Revolution in the comments down below. In the meantime, I've been Ellie for WhoCulture, and in the words of River Song herself, goodbye, sweeties.